Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Wassalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah. Welcome to Muslim Chronicle. I am your host Ashraf Zaghloul, and the Muslim community is observing the months of Ramadan, where we fast from dawn to sunset for 29 or 30 days. And today, inshallah, me and my guests will reflect on the impact and the effect of months of Ramadan and how we celebrate and how we observe it. I'd like to introduce my guests today, Fiyyaz, Jaat, and Rubina, Siddiqui. Assalamu alaikum.
Wa alaikum salam.
Maybe Rubina will start with you and ask you, what's your thoughts on the months of Ramadan and how does it change your life?
Well, I look upon Ramadan as a time for reflection, a time in which we can recenter ourselves. During the year, you get very busy with worldly matters, and although we're supposed to try to keep a balanced life, in Ramadan I think we allow ourselves to recenter ourselves, because during the rest of the year sometimes we may tend to go a little bit towards the worldly side.
Good. What about you, Fiyyaz? How does it impact you?
Well, I actually agree with Sister Rubina. I would first like to begin with all praise due to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, our Lord. And would like to say that Ramadan is a really pivotal point, I believe, for a lot of us. And it's a month that you feel like the whole year, like 11 months of the year has passed, and you may have developed certain patterns or certain ways of life that were negative, and it's used to, it's a good tool to put us on the right path, inshallah, and put us back on the, basically put us back on the right path.
For those that are not Muslims, you can almost look at it as like a New Year's resolution in a sense.
Mm-hmm. Well, I really look at it as training. We get a training every year to train, to eat properly, eat on time, train on getting up at night and praying. So it's a training exercise to keep us going for the year. So what is it that's different, that affects you, Fiyyaz? How do you see your life different during Ramadan?
Well, I guess one good thing about it is fasting is I mean, if we just take alone the physical aspect of holding back from food. It's not something that we do every day. It's something that, the food is basically one of the biggest indulgences there are around. Mm-hmm. And it's a substance that really puts us in a lethargic state. Like, it puts us in a state of, after you eat, you just, everyone wants to go to sleep. You go to bed, you're all tired out. And it's a real state it's a state that isn't positive. I know nobody should ever want to be in a state of always wanting to go to sleep. So just by taking away the physical means of the food, you're kept in a constant state of awareness. You're kept in a state of being awake and being attentive, and that is really what Islam is all about. That is what our Prophet Muhammad, peace and blessings be upon him, the message that he really brought to us was to be aware and attentive of our lives.
I think the idea of excesses is something that in this society and increasingly all over the world, we're just excess of everything, excess of entertainment, excess of food, beyond what we need, beyond what is required.
Wouldn't you agree, Ramadan is saying to cut down, and yet what we see, a lot of the Muslim families eat more or prepare more food in Ramadan, which is against the principle of Ramadan?
Often you'll find that people will eat a lot in the morning because they're like, I have to stock up for the full day. They'll eat a lot at suhoor. And then at iftar time, you'll often see food that isn't prepared throughout the rest of the year will all of a sudden be prepared during Ramadan. They think of it as a celebration. And what I think we have to remember more is that Eid is our celebration. Yes. Ramadan is the time to be more aware and more God conscious. I mean, we're always God conscious, but even more so during the month of Ramadan.
Realistically, we eat 2 meals instead of 3 meals a day, so we should be consuming less. And yet, unfortunately, during the months of Ramadan, you see Muslim nations consuming a lot more, which is against the principles of Islam. And one of the other things, of course, important is to remember the poor, where, for us, we understand now, there's food, but we can't eat it. And remember the poor, again, they see the food and they can't eat it. But, one important thing I always say, for us, at sunset we eat. Unfortunately, for the poor, unless we help them, they don't have that sunset where the table is ready and the meal is ready and help. And how do we encourage people to give?
Well, I mean, one thing is I think people realize when they don't get an opportunity to eat, or more importantly, to drink. I don't think eating is such a problem for a lot of people. They can go, they're like, you know,
sometimes speak for yourself, Rubina. I get hungry.
Sometimes people actually try to skip meals to lose weight. But I think it's the drinking, and a lot of people in a lot of nations around the world do not have clean water to drink, and so they actually are quite thirsty, and they cannot go and just get a glass of water from the tap. They don't have a tap. They may have to walk very far, or the water that they do get is actually contaminated.
So how could we do as Muslims, now that the Ramadan reminds us of these people who's deprived, what could we do as Muslims to help others during the months of Ramadan and carry on after Ramadan? Yeah,
I mean, it is, like I started off, just it is, as I said, it was just starting off like it's a month of change. And, you know, a lot of ways, like I know there are organizations that, you know, they'll visit the Daily Bread Food Bank in the month of Ramadan. And it is something that should carry on. In terms of something that will continue that, well, that's, you know, everyone's personality. It comes down to everybody. And if you want to seek month of change, if you want to seek change only in that month, then it's going to only happen for that month. But if you have sincere intentions, and your intentions are pure, and you want to do things afterwards and continue that tradition, then I believe it's in the human heart, and it is something that we should all use the month to facilitate to.
One idea that you might have is every Ramadan to pick a charity. Pick a charity that you think will be of benefit to society. So for one thing you could do, you know, you often feel thirsty during the month of Ramadan. Why don't you pick a charity that drills a well for a community in a community in Africa or a community in Afghanistan, so that they can get clean drinking water, so that they can prepare their food and boil their food and have drinking water.
And of course, the idea, if we cut down on the amount of food, we'll have more spare money to give. Unfortunately, it is the opposite. Families feel more stretched during the months of Ramadan because they spend more, they want to buy more, and then they have less to give. So, you know, obviously money is important, and if we spend less during Ramadan, we'll be able to give more.
I think we have to go also back to the example of the Prophet Muhammad ﷺ. And I'm not quoting verbatim, but he often said that it's a blessing to open someone's fast, and you can even open someone's fast by giving them a sip of water or a date. So you don't have to have these extravagant iftar parties where you have, you know, 30 items of food, or maybe I'm exaggerating a little bit, but you know.
Sometimes there's even more.
We'll go to iftar at her place.
Yes. No, but one of the important things, Prophet Muhammad ﷺ says, the worst type of meals is the parties. They asked, why, Ya Rasulullah, we get together? He said, because you invite your rich friends and you don't invite the poor. And in Ramadan, we should remember always to invite the poor. When you have all these wonderful things, and we are fasting, and now we're making me hungry, when we have all this wonderful food, we should remember the poor and invite them. They should be the first on our invitee list rather than the ones we forget.
It is true, and I think a lot of the mosques actually out there will have, you know, Ramadan iftar programs where, you know, the mosque itself will sponsor, they'll have families sponsor the iftar. And I believe, you know, it is done on, you know, you see that people invite certain people, but it is an open house, and it is something that the doors are open in every mosque to every community, to anyone who wants to, you know, like basically come and have iftar with them, come and break their fast, or even simply have a meal. I don't think I've ever seen a mosque where somebody would reject anyone coming in. So it is a very good principle that we have.
Maybe an important point to add is it is open for Muslims and non-Muslims.
Yes,
absolutely. It's, you know, it's for the whole community.
Well, an example is at my school we're going to be holding an iftar dinner, inshallah, and we happen to have a lot of Muslim students at the school that I teach at. However, this iftar dinner is open to both the Muslim students, their families, their friends, non-Muslim students, non-Muslim staff. It's open to everyone, and the idea is to it's a time where people can celebrate the month of Ramadan together. They can learn about what Ramadan is, learn a little bit more about the Muslim culture, and to the Muslim religion and the culture, because culture is a little bit different than religion.
And it's very important to explain to everybody, to show it's no different, to show, you know, a lot of people get amazed, how could you do that, you know, to fast from, you know, dawn to sunset. And yes, the first couple of days are hard, and then you get used to it, and, you know, you feel more healthier. What's your experience, Fiyyaz, with that?
And it's a huge dawah tool, right? It really is. It's to, to show everyone that it's open. Like, for example, at work, everyone does ask you, and they say, well, how do you do that? I'm like, oh, it's just from dawn to dusk. It's actually not too bad. And you wake up early in the morning and you eat. I think it affects some of us for sleep more than it does for food, but the effects are there, but they're all positive, right? So even as a dawah tool, people will ask you questions about it, and you can answer them, and it's a very good dawah tool.
My personal experience, the first couple of days is hard, because you get adjusted. But after this, as time progresses, after the first week, it becomes easy, normal, and you like it.